Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Book Trek 2025, the search for Book Trek. This is a BookTube event created by Vin at Revenant Reads, designed to celebrate Star Trek fiction all throughout the summer. All throughout the summer months when a lot of us associate the summer with easier reading, science fiction reading, fantasy reading, Star Trek. Oftentimes you would go to a Star Trek movie or repeat during the summer. I did many, many times. Also, in the summer on BookTube, we have Rocket Summer, which is all about cheesy old science fiction. So it seems natural. It seems like a natural fit. It's also a relaxed event. You have all summer long to participate. If you read one Star Trek novel, then you've participated. And that doesn't take much to do. Every year I have a different kind of emphasis. I love Star Trek. I've been watching it from the beginning. I've read so much of it. Not all of it, but so many books. Oh, my God. That every year I sort of vary around what I want to do. And this year I decided, more or less on the spur of the moment, that I wanted to emphasize Star Trek Voyager, which is not exactly a fan favorite. It usually ranks last among the 5 real Star Trek series. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. It's the story of the USS Voyager, which is flung across the galaxy by alien technology that is so advanced it is indistinguishable from magic. The Voyager is flown across the galaxy, so it ends up 70,000 light years from the Alpha Quadrant, from the Federation, from home, which is a death sentence for most of the crew. It means they'll never make it back, even at maximum warp in a straight line, which, of course, neither of those things is possible. So it's too long. It's 70 years until the ship gets back. Captain Catherine Janeway decides to do that, set a course for home, and hopes to find other technology along the way, anything that will shorten the visit. I'm really hoping, now that I mention that, it occurs to me that maybe the fact that the captain is a woman accounts for why this is so low in the Star Trek ratings. I like to think better of Star Trek fans, but almost all fandoms have been overrun, not only by blue-haired alt-left activists, but by neck-bearded quasi-fascist alt-right trolls. So who knows if that isn't a football that's in play. I have no idea. But anyway, I boned up on Voyager because I am writing a Voyager story. I have let it lapse, Caesar's 3 and 30 Wounds, but it is a terrific story, and I will get back to it. And so I decided to read Voyager novels. And I did that last night to get back in the swing of things for all of my BookTube events. I need to get back in the swing of things. Guests come, I love it when they're here, and then they leave. That is normal. That is absolutely normal. There's no use pouting for any longer than I can help it. I'm 28 years old, after all. I should have well outgrown pouting. So last night I read a Voyager novel that was very early. It was when the Voyager novels were still being numbered. It's by Mark Garland and Charles McGraw, and it's called Ghost of a Chance. And it was the second book I read last night that had a cliche for a title. That is a very bad idea. You should not do that. Don't give your book a cliche title. Don't give it... this is a cliche. Oh, you don't have a ghost of a chance. But also, don't give it a title that 500,000 books have also had. Midnight's Edge, The Reckoning, Reaper. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Why would you go to the bother of writing a book and then guarantee that the first impression anybody's going to have of it is that it is hackneyed work? Anyway, this book didn't turn out to be hackneyed work. It is fairly good, but it's hampered by the fact that time went on with Voyager. This was written. God, considering when this book came out, these two authors could barely have known anything about the cast of Voyager or the reality of Voyager. And even if they had, all those realities have changed. Voyager was not static for its 7 years. So, the original idea, I guess one of the original ideas, I wish that it weren't so, for Janeway's first officer, Chakotay. He is from an Earth colony planet that has gone back to Native American roots. No real indication of which Native American roots. It's not like it's only one root. But they've gone back to that. He's from that colony. He has a face tattoo. And he is also a captain in the Maquis, a terrorist group that Starfleet is hunting down. They're hunting them to extinction. he and his crew happen to get flung across the galaxy at the same time that the Voyager does, and Janeway decides that the only way to integrate the two crews is for the goodwill gesture of making Chakotay her first officer, so that the Maquis crew members don't feel like they're second-class citizens. Turns out most of them do anyway. The gesture is largely a failure. Chakotay cannot ride herd on his own people, but nevertheless, that he's a former terrorist who is now a first officer of a starship, that is interesting enough. That could lead to a lot of drama. Chakotay should have been I don't think I'm alone among Voyager fans in saying that Chakotay is one of the show's most unrealized dramatic potentials. But somehow the showrunners thought he needed more than that, and so they hauled in all this dumb ethnicist garbage, all this garbage that if you're in any way even remotely Native American, I don't think Chakotay is. I think he's a colonist from another world. If you're even remotely Native American in any way, then you will have spirit guides and you will walk in the spirit world and whatnot. I don't get the cultural atavism. I really don't. But nevertheless, these authors decide to do that in this book. That aspect of Chakotay's personality is almost completely abandoned before the show is much older than when this book came out, but it's here in this book. There is a ghostly figure on Voyager. It turns out it's not a Native American spirit animal because, say it with me now, they don't exist. No spirit animals exist. But we do get that that element of Chakotay's personality, and it would be more effective. I wouldn't want you to revive these kind of ethnic stereotype atavisms at any point. But if you're going to, you'll notice it's never the white characters who have them. It's just so, anyway, I wouldn't want you to revive them at any time, but if you were going to do that, for instance, in a novel that came out a couple of years after this, when Voyager was a couple of years older, well, you might have been able to do a little more convincing job. But the problem here is that the writers don't know who Chakotay is. The showrunners didn't know who Chakotay was, or Janeway, or pretty much anybody else on board the ship. So it doesn't work. That aspect of it doesn't work. But the plot involves the ship is entering the Draenor system, and when they encounter unexpectedly a brown dwarf, and it batters the hell out of Voyager. So they need a lot of basic supplies. This is one of the many, many novels that actually raises but does not answer the question that fans had from the very beginning, which is how is Voyager staying in such pristine condition, so far away from Starfleet or star bases of any kind? Of course, the answer is the replicators. The answer is recycling. Voyager must, in order to get through its 7 seasons, Voyager had to become the queen of recycling. Presumably, the replicator technology can replicate a lot, but presumably the more complicated a thing is, the more difficult it is to replicate. You probably need many tries, many layers, many people involved. I don't know if in Voyager's timeline it's possible to replicate dilithium crystals or even deuterium. I don't really know. But the ship loses shuttles. It loses photon torpedoes. Those have to be replicated. You don't have an infinite supply of those. This book raises all sorts of those questions, but it doesn't answer them at all. Instead, after that encounter with the brown dwarf star, Voyager is in need of supplies, and they are abundant in the Draenor system. But Draenor 4 has a world. Draenor 4 would technically be a good place to look for supplies, and it also has a couple of other issues involved. But it has a civilization, and it's a primitive pre-warp civilization. And I think the goal of a large part of this book is to raise the question that does get raised sometimes in the original show of the Prime Directive. Starfleet has a prime directive for all starships that you are not to make yourself known to pre-warp civilizations. If a civilization has the ability to go to warp drive, to leave its solar system efficiently, not in a sleeper ship, but in days, instead of centuries. If it has the ability, in other words, to contact you, then you're allowed to contact it. But if it doesn't, you are not allowed to contact. You're not allowed to let it know in any way that you exist. That is the prime directive. You are not to interfere with pre-warp civilizations. Now, You original series fans are probably smiling at this point, because Jim Kirk viewed the Prime Directive largely as a tentative suggestion rather than a rule, the violation of which could get you court-martialed, and he broke it willy-nilly. But actually, lots of starship captains do. It doesn't always come into play. It's not always important. For instance, once Star Trek Deep Space Nine took off and started becoming just broad-scale Federation history, well, there weren't any first contact missions that involved the Prime Directive in any way. It's not like you can't interfere with the Breen. But in this episode, this book, I should say, that is an issue. It is an issue. That is the Prime Directive still in effect? Does it matter? If exigent circumstances are pressing on you and you're 70,000 light years from home, do you really need to observe the Prime Directive? And, of course, Janeway is a by-the-book kind of person. She is firmly convinced, in the show and in all the good books, that Starfleet's ethos is the thing keeping the crew together. I don't know exactly why she thinks that. The Marquis hates Starfleet, and a section of her crew, we don't ever know how many, is Marquis. Her first officer is Marquis. He has spent years hating the Federation. We never get any inclination whatsoever. We never get any intimation of what the change of heart Chakotay must have had was. I think I know what the heart of it is. I think it's just that Janeway is a great captain. And he senses that right away. That ethos is brandished in some books, and I love it when it is. I think that's what it was, but we're never shown it on the show, and we get precious little in the books. A book like Ghost of a Chance with an actual number on the cover had almost no leeway to elaborate on these characters at all. The authors were told, you have almost no leeway to elaborate at all. So don't give us that moment. Don't have Chakotay reflect on what caused him to be loyal to this captain and to Starfleet again after having left it and joined a terrorist group. Don't give us that moment, because we might film it someday, and we don't want you mucking that thing up. But the bulk of the book is twofold. The plot is driven by those two things. One is the ghost, this ghostly thing, this spirit thing, that it turns out not only Chakotay is seeing, and maybe Chakotay is being influenced by, Chakotay and Ensign Kim, and also the ethical dilemma of what to do with Draenor 4, what to do with the Prime Directive in the Delta Quadrant. So I liked it. It was competently done. I felt like I was looking at the answers at the back of a teacher's manual, because I know how these characters develop. That's the problem with reading earlier novels of a Star Trek franchise that does develop. You don't have this problem reading, for instance, novels set in the original series, because there's never anything that develops in this way. Crew members don't change. For instance, this novel has Neelix and Kes. Not so much Kes as you'd notice, but it has Neelix in it all over. And eventually Kes leaves the crew, and eventually even Neelix does. This is, of course, pre-7 of 9. But, for instance, Star Trek, the original series, or maybe... I was going to say Star Trek Enterprise, but they do have that weird season where they go hunting for a ship that has destroyed a large section of Earth. And that's an event. That's a thing that happens, after which no character can act like it didn't happen. Nothing like that is true in the original series. You might think the death of Edith Keeler is, but it isn't treated that way. Whereas with a show like this, once it hit its stride and was no longer Planet of the Week, lots of things happen, after which no crew member can be expected to behave as if it hadn't happened. So when you're reading a novel set in that time, it's like you're looking at an old photo album. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of this felt like. It's competently done, but no Voyager reading experience of mine has really blown me out of the park so far for Book Trek. So I think it's obvious. I mentioned that before a few times, and a number of you have emailed me and said, well, it's obvious then that no matter what, you're not going to stick with Voyager all summer long, and that's probably true. I'm pretty sure that in the remaining time left in June, I could read the rest of Voyager that is written, so I probably won't. But I'm having fun now. I mean, I'm exploring now. I read Voyager novels like this, and because I'm writing at least a Voyager novella of my own, one of my first thoughts sounds very egotistical, and that is, I can do better. Even in this book, just give me the parameters of this book. I wouldn't need to change anything in terms of the bigger plot structures that happen. Just the writing. I could make there are 2 exciting scenes in this book. I could make them more exciting. Definitely, I could. I don't know. I don't know. I'll keep trying. I'm going to read another Voyager novel tonight, but and I will get back to my Voyager story. I have the rest of the summer to write it, but you're going to like it. I think you're going to like it more than this. But anyway, that's my Book Trek report for today. So I'll wrap this up, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. Thank you, BookTube.